This score represents my biggest ever victory across my entire 40k career. And I achieved this playing a strong meta list that I had zero experience using. I've won games before, sometimes even quite decisively. It's not often, but it happens from time to time. This, though, this was something entirely different. This was a slaughter, a complete and total execution where my opponent had absolutely zero chance to prevent me from crushing him beneath my boot heel. And it felt good. This game was the first round of the Scrimbledon Cup, a 5v5 online teams event run by Toby Bennett of Tactical 40k when he's not too busy being a 40k coach, participating in the WTC representing Team Wales, or prowling city centres for DILFs until 6 in the morning. It's a relatively casual event that allows people to give Teams 40k a go and have a bit of fun in a more relaxed environment. And with this being on Tabletop Simulator, it allows people from all over the world to get some games of 40k in with others from across the globe. And what's more is that the chances of there being a fight in the car park are incredibly low. But never zero. Toby wanted me to be a part of his team for this event, and I agreed to join, but with one condition. You see, this is Tabletop Simulator. I have the entire 40k universe at my fingertips. Therefore, each round I gave Toby carte blanche to make me a list that I'd never seen before from any army in the entire game. He would then give me a very quick crash course on what the list does, what the units do, and how best to approach the game, before unceremoniously throwing me in the deep end to find out if I can wildly flail around enough to get a victory, or if I just drown. I wanted this to be an opportunity to try something new without having to buy and paint a completely new army, but also, most importantly, I thought it'd be funny. Speaking of completely new things, the Mad Case 2.0 from Terminators.com is dead. Get ready for the glorious reign of the Mad Case 3.0. The Mad Case 3.0 is the brand new best way to keep your mini safe, secure, and easier to transport than ever before, with the raw power of over 3,000% more magnets. That's right, there's over a full pound of neodymium in this bad boy. Incredible! That's not even a real unit of measurement. It's got magnets in the doors, it's got magnets in the walls, it's got magnets beamed directly into your bloodstream so you stick to every metal surface you come near. The wizard has become too powerful. The Mad Case 3.0 is everything you love about the carry cases from Tabletop Stronghold, but literally better in every single way, making you look stupid for even thinking about any other carry case on the market. The front display is now more secure thanks to the power of magnets. The trays are secured in place with magnets. The new handle is bigger, rounder, and better for carrying, and the new sleek engraving design gives the whole thing a new sheen of consummate professionalism that really gives the cases a big boost. The Mad Case 3.0 is now designed to be stacked side by side, even on top of each other, so you can build a whole wall of Mad Cases to protect not only your entire decades-old mini collection, but also your family from potential siege warfare from enemy invaders. And I'm still not done. The Mad Case 3.0 now comes with the brand new Mad Bag. This optional additional bag is specifically designed for the Mad Case 3.0 with water-resistant nylon, thick padding, and more pockets than the entirety of a women's clothing store. Seriously, why don't women's clothing have pockets? Who decided that? I'll tell you who didn't. Tabletop Stronghold. They love pockets, they love magnets, and they love you. And I love you. Especially if you go to tabletopstronghold.com right now and get yourself a Mad Case 3.0. And make sure to use code PAUL20 for 20% off. Thank you once again, Tabletop Stronghold, for sponsoring. Click the links down below to get yourself a Mad Case 3.0 right now. I'm not f***ing around anymore. Get a Mad Case 3.0 with optional bag, or the Mag Wizard will find you. Toby decided it would be good to properly get me out of my comfort zone and try something that will give me a true test of my war gaming acumen. A list so radically different from anything I've played before that it would push me to the absolute limits of my abilities. For round one, I am going to play Salamanders. Now, okay, look, yeah, I know this isn't the most exciting pick, but to be fair, Toby is a pretty busy guy. Not just with organising this tournament, he has his own channel to run, he has coaching, WTC prep, and on top of all that, he's some sort of loser that has a real job. So for the first round, I think it's fair that he can give me something he has more familiarity with, but hey, that's fine. I'm sure when we get to the second round, Toby will give me something a lot more interest. Fuck! This is not just any Salamanders list, however. By some familiarity, what I actually mean is that Toby has given me his 5-0 GT winning Salamanders list with improvements based on the event experience at the Birmingham GT. This is a list that I can only describe as a war crime. In the most recent balance date slate, this list has been nerfed by 105 points on top of some rules nerfs, but even post that nerf, this is still an extremely powerful army, as evidenced by this. The detachment combo is Forge Father's Seekers with Librarians Conclave, and it is led by Vulkan He'stan himself. There's no real easy way to say this, but Vulkan He'stan is a disgusting goddamn monster. The fact that he's only 85 points and didn't get any nerfs in the last balance data state is a complete travesty. He is cheaper than both Shrike and Shan, despite somehow being more impactful than both of them combined. Not that I'm mad about that or anything. He has two abilities. The first is that he can pick an enemy unit within 24 inches invisible to him and give all torrent and melt weapons from friendly units wound rerolls. This is insanely strong because getting wound rerolls is one of the most powerful abilities in the game, especially when you mostly rely on weapons that don't even have to roll to hit. This also synergizes incredibly with some of the other things this list has access to, which I'll come onto soon. His second ability is somehow even more busted. It was decent before, but a big part of making this ability so strong is due to the changes made in 11th edition regarding objectives and terrain. The first time this model is set up on the battlefield, select one objective. Whilst this model is within range of that objective, it has an objective control characteristic of 10, a leadership of 5+, and a 4-up feel no pain. So what makes this ability so great? Well, for starters, look at how it is worded. The first time this model is set up on the battlefield. If you deploy him normally, you have to choose the target objective during your deployment phase once you put him down. This somewhat restricts you on where you can go with Vulkan and also gives your opponent a lot of information about where he's likely to end up. But what you can do instead is have him start the game inside a transport, like, let's say, a Land Raider Redeemer. Then you can choose the objective when you first disembark, as that would be the first time this model is set up on the battlefield. So you can disembark him directly on top of an objective, pick it as your target, and that's an immediate extra 10 OC onto it. Now you can do this in 10th, of course, that's going to be on the circle objective markers. What makes this really good and really takes it to the next level is the 11th edition cover rules, and specifically the hidden rule. Because the objective markers are the terrain, you're allowed to then turn onto terrain and gain hidden. Hidden allows infantry to be untargetable outside of their detection range when standing on terrain areas. This detection range is normally 15 inches, and if you're behind a solid terrain feature, this range goes down to 12 inches. So when Vulkan He'stan disembarks and stands on an objective behind a ruin, he's not only going to be worth 10 OC, he effectively gains Lone Operative. Of course, you can also have him as part of a unit for more protection, but this list runs him on his own because it's very easy to hide a single 40 mil based model towing onto a terrain objective behind a ruin, out of line of sight, and even if you do manage to get into line of sight, you're going to get within 12 inches, which, hey, coincidentally, just the right range for a veritable inferno of flamers. And just to really rub in how much of a ball ache this guy is, he also gains the 4-up Feel No Pain and a leadership of 5+ whilst he's on this objective. So killing him is even harder than expected, as he will effectively halve any damage. And if you thought making him fail a battle shock would be the solution, womp womp, bad news, that will also be harder than normal. So now you have a 10 OC model with a 4-up invuln save, a 4-up Feel No Pain, and a 2-up armor save. Oh, did I forget to mention he has a 2-up armor save? Yeah, he has a base 2+ armor save. No idea why. He just has power armor and he's not a Grey Knight, but for some reason, he gets a 2+. He has pseudo Lone Op and can point to any enemy within 24 inches to grant the rest of your army one of the most powerful rules in the shooting phase, with weapons that don't even need to attempt to hit. And as part of the Forge Father's Seekers attachment, Vulkan being in the list allows Infernus Marines to do actions either after advancing or even after they've shot, so you can still rain all that horrific Prometheum-flavored punishment without having to sacrifice getting any points. Oh, and also, Vulkan allows those Infernus Marines to be OC2 instead of OC1. I would like to remind everyone that it takes both Cave and Shrike and Aethan Shan to get units to have OC2 and access to their detachment bonus. But for some reason, Salamanders get to have all their buffs on just Vulkan, despite having a second character in Adrax Agatone who could also lead Infernus Marines and grant them wound rerolls, plus some melee weapons that's the same power as a fucking Assault Centurion, whilst also reducing the enemy's OC by half for 20 points cheaper than Shrike and Shan. And whilst I'm still pissed off at the absolute disrespect towards Raven Guard, Shan being in your list literally makes Shrike worse, forcing you to bring a minimum of 85 points to ensure that he can remain Lone Op. Why does Shan nerf Shrike, but Vulkan gets to do literally anything he wants? And just to finalize this absolute bullshit of a model, Shan has less than a 50% chance of killing Vulkan with Oath of Moment. Vulkan has a 63% chance of killing Shan in return with Oath, and when you take Oath out of the equation, Shan has a 31% chance of killing Vulkan. Vulkan has a 35% chance of killing Shan. Yes, that's right, I'm so fucking mad that I wanted to justify my anger mathematically. The numbers don't lie. Remember, this was all just a single model in this list. So what else is there? The rest of the characters are of the more magical variety, thanks to the power of Librarius Conclave. 3 Librarians and a Librarian in Terminator armor. 2 of the Librarians lead 10 Infernus Marines, and the 3rd heads up the very commonly seen 10-man Sternguard veterans. The Sternguard Librarian has the Fusillade enhancement, which has since been changed, but for this game, it was in its pre-nerf state of granting anti-monster, anti-vehicle 5+. It still grants the sustained hits 1 if you're in the Pyromancy discipline, which you will be most of the time because, you know, fire, innit? Sternguard have the ability that allows you to reroll the wound roll against your Oath of Moment target, and all of their weapons have devastating wounds. The Librarian gives that unit a 4-up invuln save for more resilience, and a 4-up feel no pain against psychic attacks, which is only really useful into a couple of armies and pretty much worthless against the rest. So unless I happen to go into one of those psychic-heavy armies, I don't think this ability particularly matters. This is foreshadowing for later. The Sternguard squad rides around one of the 2 Land Raider Redeemers, with the other Redeemer containing Vulkan and a 10-man Infernus squad led by a Librarian. This Librarian does not have any enhancements, but the defensive abilities are still useful, and it grants access to Pyromancy, which gives an extra AP if your target is within 12 inches, which Flamers always will be. Add that to +1 strength for Forge Father's Seekers, and you have some extremely spicy firepower. With all of that combined, it means that you can get out of a Land Raider Redeemer, advance into range thanks to Forge Father's Seekers giving your weapons the assault ability, get 10d6 strength 6 AP2 flamer attacks that you can also give wound rerolls on from Vulkan, and then just to really make sure that your opponent regrets ever stepping anywhere near you, for 2 command points you can use immolation protocols to give flamers and melter weapons devastating wounds. So let's recap here. This list has 2 units that in a single turn can get out of a Redeemer, advance into range of a target, get an absolutely absurd number of shots with full hit and wound rerolls with devastating wounds, whilst also being more resilient in return. And even if you don't get that many dev wounds through, it is still a minimum of AP 2, and thanks to the extra strength and potentially +1 to wound, anything that isn't a devastating wound is probably going to still force a save. And that's before you add the Redeemers to the mix. Oh, don't you dare forget to add the Redeemers to the mix. They themselves are absurdly powerful with their 2-up save, T12 body, 2d6 +6 heavy flavor shots with an additional melter that can also advance a shoot and get access to the +1 strength bonus. And that's still just half the army. There's more. You also have another group of Librarian-led Infirmaries with Temporal Corridor, which gives you access to Uppy Downy, potentially with Deep Strike if you have a moment to swap over from the Pyromancy discipline. During this time when we played the game, that Uppy Downy could be done even if they were in combat. This has since been changed to be on par with other Uppy Downy abilities, which is good news for you as it saves you the pain of hearing me have a fucking aneurysm ranting about how even the Uppy Downy is better than Shadowmark Talon's version. You also then have a 10 Maverick of tanky Terminators with another Librarian for even more defense, and remember all of these units have advance to shoot and extra strength and AP within 12 inches. And let's not forget the 2 squads of Eradicators with heavy bolters, which are just perfect icing on this overcooked flaming cake of wanton destruction. Cheap, but still very potent. These are perfect for clearing out screening units to let your big bricks of white-hot death do the business. You also get access to stratagems that allow you to fall back and shoot, get +1 to wound when they're within 6 inches, and just to really make sure that your opponent has absolutely no hope in hell of doing anything proactive, if they try to shoot your Land Raiders, you can disembark the troops inside and return fire against anything brave enough or stupid enough to try and take down the Land Raider while standing a bit too close. And, of course, just to really make sure this list has absolutely no weaknesses, a squad of scouts, because every Space Marine list is required to have at least 1 squad of scouts. Wait, no, sorry, I lied. I meant 2 squads of scouts. This list is honestly insane. I have no idea how you'd beat it. At the very least, I have no idea how my Screaming Ravens lists go against this. And even now, post-nerf, they're still strong as all hell. Pyromancy isn't as great into tanks anymore, and having lethal hits has kind of an anti-synergy, but it's not the end of the world. Notably, in 11th edition, you could choose not to take the lethal hits if you don't want to. But remember, you still have sustained, so you aren't losing out on any potential wound rolls, and if you're within 12 inches, which you likely will be, they are still AP2. And you might be thinking, well, they also changed Forge Fathers from Purge to Priority, so all of that killing power is less useful. And yes, that is certainly true, but I ran this list as Recon, which you can still do. And if you don't want to run Recon, Priority Assets is completely fine, and in fact, probably better than Purge anyway. Especially now, Purge is probably the weakest, because the secret at the moment for 11th edition is every mission is Purge. Except Purge. I'm telling you, this army is so incredibly powerful. It's such a good list to run. And the only real problem with the list is that it's made me realize that making my own list has been a complete waste of time and it's been holding me back from my true potential. wasn't there when the matchups were drafted, but I was told that I was put forward as the second defender. If you are unfamiliar with the team's drafting process, let me briefly take you through it. Each team elects one of their 5 armies to be their defender. These are then revealed to each other at the same time. Each team then puts forward 2 attackers to go against that defender. Each team then picks which of those 2 attackers they want to face their defender. This process repeats, with the final game being the 2 unselected armies. Our opponents presented their 2 attacking choices, one of which was Thousand Suns. Specifically, this was Thousand Suns in the Hex Warp Thrallband and Sekitar Court combo, which at the time was a very popular and powerful combination. It gives buffs to psychic attacks in your magical zone and also makes weapons equipped by Sekitar robots psychic so they can benefit from this, on top of the existing benefits that psychic attacks provide. Most of my army has a 4-up field of pain against that. And the only reason they put forward Thousand Suns as an option into what was obviously a bad matchup is because the player wanted to play against me specifically. My opponent, Happypants, yes, that is his name, it was on TTS, so what are you gonna do, was of course a super nice guy, and he mentioned to me that he has only been playing for a couple of months and has a fun but not highly optimized list. No Defilers to be scared of, no Forge Fiends, no Magnus, but it does have a Helldrake, so it is of course immediately the coolest list in the world. This list incidentally was also nerfed, with the biggest one being that Hex Warp Thrallband is now 3 detach points, so can't be paired with Sekitar Court anymore. The main bulk of this list is 3 lots of 4 Sekitar robots, which are very nasty with Psychic, allowing them to ignore all modifiers when attacking. These weapons have some really scary weapon profiles on top of being able to infiltrate and Overwatch for free, and that Overwatch with high strength, high AP flamers is gonna be nasty, which is something that I should know a little bit about. It also has 3 lots of Rubrics with 2 led by characters, a big squad of 10 Scarab Occult Terminators, which are a nasty prospect whatever detachment you play, 3 Araman-led Zangor Enlightened with bows, a Helbrute, and some Chaos Spawn. As I was the defender during the draft, Toby got to pick the map layout for the game, which he selected as this one. I have easy routes into the center and my expansion whilst remaining out of harm's way from Happy's army, allowing me to safely set up for my big damage turns. So not only do I have an extremely good meta list, it's a meta list that is a direct counter to my opponent's army, playing on the best deployment and terrain layout for me, against a relatively new player playing a fun but less optimized list for a complicated army, whilst I have a world-renowned 40k coach in my corner who is giving me the rundown of what I need to do. The deck could not be any more stacked in my favor unless Happypants was literally unable to reach a computer. There is simply no way I can lose this game. My mission is Reconnaissance Sweep versus Purge and Secure for Happy, and we're playing on Layout C. I am deploying first, so I put my scouts near his expansion just to ensure that he can't put any Sekitars nearby and make it difficult for me to maneuver on that side of the board, as well as blocking him from being able to get some Sekitars in a nice place to swing around into my backline. It also helps in setting up some easy points for being able to take at least 3 table quarters. With that deterrent in place, Happy deploys aggressively with his Sekitars on the opposite side, with one squad near my expansion and the other near the center. The third is in this pocket of terrain here, nicely in range to back up either of these 2 units. And the rest of his army is primed to move out and start taking and holding. The 10-man Scarab Occult Terminators start in Deep Strike. My deployment is very light on drops because most of my units are either in Deep Strike or inside transport. The Stern Guard Land Raider sets up here to get onto my expansion, and the Vulkan and Infernus Redeemer parks itself nicely in this little nook here, ready to move onto the center. The 2 squads of Eradicators chill near the Redeemers to poke onto terrain for anything that wants to get too close, and the final squad of Infernus Marines hold my home objective until I'm ready to jump them somewhere. I need to make sure I don't leave any gaps in my backfield for a sneaky drop from Scarab Occult Terminators on turn 2, so the second squad of Scouts also protects my backline. Happy wins the roll-off for first turn. He moves his Sekitars to take my expansion, moves the Chaos Spawn into the center, and stages the rest of his army towards his expansion in the center, but otherwise keeps his distance from my short-range assault. On my turn 1, I begin to lay the foundations for my scorching attack. The Stern Guard Redeemer moves up towards my expansion, taking it with 5 OC and killing a couple of Sekitars in shooting. I move the other Redeemer onto the center objective, drop Vulkan out to put his boosted 10 OC onto it, and also be well hidden from the majority of Happy's army. I then use the Redeemer to take out 3 more Sekitars. I move the bottom squad of Eradicators just in range of the Chaos Spawn to take them both out thanks to some very decent rolling, and the other squad move onto this terrain here to get a line of sight onto the Rubric squad that has started to make their way towards the middle, killing 4 Rubrics thanks to that blaster sustained. On turn 2, Happy continues his push, getting more movement towards his expansion, as well as getting the Helldrake and Helbrute forward to try and stage for some action. The Araman-led squad of Zangor Enlightened also make a play towards the center. The Exalted Sorcerer attempts to bring back one of his trusty dusty lads, but unfortunately, by rolling a 1, instead gives the Rubric Sorcerer standing next to them a migraine. Happy also decides that now is the time to bring the Scarab Occult Terminators in, try and get rid of some of the scoring and screening pieces in my backfield. He finds a nice gap between my Eradicators and Scouts directly behind my central Land Raider. In response, I continue to be extremely rude and rapid ingress my own Terminators onto his home objective. With some nice split fire, the Scarab Occult Terminators take out both the Eradicators and the Scouts. With a Temporal Surge, he can ensure that at least one of his Rubrics gets onto his expansion for some points. In his turn 2, Happypants killed 135 points of my units. In my turn 2, I may have killed a little bit more. I put Oath a Moment onto the Heldrake, and the Stern Guard gets out of their transport and move right up close and personal. The Land Raider then maneuvers his way through the ruins to get a better angle at the now 2 squads of Secateurs in this corner, melting a couple more of them and preparing for some vehicular bot slaughter. The Infernus Marines advance out of their Land Raider into the face of the Scarab cults, with Vulkan pointing at them menacingly, granting the Infernus wound rerolls. There is a chance that they eat an Overwatch here, but with the Heldrake Flamer and Secateur free Overwatch ability, Happy might decide that he has a better chance elsewhere. As kind of realistically, this is a lot of very tough wounds to get through, even with all of my firepower. The second squad of Infernus Marines teleport over to this corner to take out the Rubrics that dare to try and touch their own expansion objective. The Eradicators advance to secure this objective so that the Land Raider has full access to raidable land while charging into the Secateurs, and can also get an angle on Araman's hoverboard gang. And finally, the Terminators move up to get angles on either these Rubrics or the Helbrute, whilst also taking a stranglehold of Happy's home objective. So my Stern Guard have 24 damage 1 attacks re-rolling with sustained hits, plus wound re-rolls with dev wounds on a 5+ against the Heldrake, then another 6 attacks doing the same thing but damage 2, plus the Librarian, and then a potential charge into the Exalted Sorcerer with his unwell subordinate to really lock Happy out of having anything on his board side. My Infernus Marines with 2 command points get 10d6 shots into the Scarab cults with dev wounds and wound rerolls, plus the Land Raider supporting fire, which will also get wound rerolls. My Terminators can shoot and charge into the Helbrute while also holding Happy's home. My second Infernus squad can toast the Rubrics, trying to take their expansion with +1 AP and +1 strength, and my Eradicators roll extremely hot and demonstrate the reason for their name by eradicating Araman and his entire squad. This was the end of my turn 2. In total, that's 9 Scarab Cult Terminators, 6 Rubric Marines, 2 Exalted Sorcerers, Araman, 3 Zangor Enlightened, 2 Secateurs, a Heldrake, and most of a Helbrute. All that Happy has left is the Scarab Cult Terminator Sorcerer Sergeant and a Terminator Sorcerer, a single squad of Rubrics, a 2 health Helbrute, and 2 lost 2 Secateurs, currently in combat with a very healthy Land Raider. I'm holding all 5 objectives, and all I have lost is 3 Eradicators, 5 Scouts, and 1 Stern Guard that died to Overwatch. This game is over. To be fair to Happy, he did play well considering the circumstances, and he had some truly abysmal dice luck throughout the game, which really didn't help. His psychic powers were just never connecting, so he wasn't able to get any of the good powers off, and then he basically didn't get another try because all his psychos were dead. He failed to revive any Rubrics because the one time he tried, he failed, and the other Rubrics got wiped out completely. His damage rolls were awful for any D6 weaponry, and he just couldn't get anything going without running it into a wall of fiery hyperdeath. We had a chat after the game to discuss what he could have done differently, and I think his big mistake was where he brought down the Scarab Cult Terminators. With all the powers stacked, it's quite likely that they could take down a Land Raider in one volley, and taking down that middle Land Raider means my Infernus Marines have to get out in an awkward position and potentially lose a few of them. If he had brought them down over here, he didn't have to then abandon his home either and could have protected that from my Terminators, but instead he traded his critical 500-point unit for 2 of my chaff units that had basically done their job, and he got badly burned for it. Regardless, this was an extremely decisive victory. In a team score, this is a 20-0. I started this game well aware of the advantages I was given, but I didn't want to get complacent because I know I can be an idiot and could just bugger it up straight away despite all my advantages. But I was somewhat confident in getting a win here. After the second battle round, when it became obvious just how one-sided this was, I honestly thought I'd feel differently to how I ended up feeling. I felt a little bit bad and off to play Happy again outside the tournament with my new Screaming Ravens list to make up for it, but only felt a little bit bad. What was strange is that I felt good. That this victory felt like an accomplishment, like I'd earned it. I felt like I actually achieved something that I was good at the game. This is my biggest victory ever, a completely one-sided shellacking, and even though I am fully cognizant of just how far the scales were tipped in my favor, it didn't take away from my victory. It didn't feel less deserved or less earned than previous victories using my own lists. Because at the end of the day, it didn't matter if Toby led me to water. I had to be the one to drink. And drink I did. The taste of victory. So exhilarating. And don't forget, it was I that made no mistakes. I was the one who played the game to perfection. I was the one who smashed my pathetic opponent to the floor and ground them into the dirt beneath the weight of my clearly superior skill. I've been trying for so long to get better at the game, and I tried making something optimal after a year of fucking around. I barely made any improvements, if any at all. I was still losing just as often as I was before. I thought it was because I was a bad player. I thought I was just not simply cut out to play this game, but I was clearly mistaken. I was never actually bad at stuff. No. I've always been good. I've just been holding myself back using terrible army lists. As soon as I got that taste of real power, I knew that I had the strength to compete with even the greatest players in the world. All of this time has been wasted when I should have just been grabbing the best lists from the internet written by a council of nerds who think they know what they're doing. They all work together creating these lists. They all get together and try and create these amalgamations of horror. They try to hide them from our undeserving eyes whilst telling us that we should just make our own list because it's the cool thing to do. They've been playing this like a goddamn fiddle. It's not meta chasing. I'm just leveling the playing field. This Salamanders list is simply a tool that has the same importance on par with the tape measure or dice, a mere component for playing the game properly. 5-0 is not simply just achievable now. It is inevitable, and by winning, I get to finally feel like my time has been worth it, that I can feel good about myself for once. And if I don't win? If I get a measly 4-1 or, perish the thought, a 3-2 record, it isn't because I'm bad. It must be that everyone else just happened to pick a list that counters mine, or my opponents clearly cheated, or my dice just fucking suck. And so if I'm losing, that means that everyone else is cheating. All their dice are obviously rigged, then why shouldn't I do the same thing? It's not cheating, it's leveling the playing field. Every defeat keeps me from quenching my thirst from that intoxicating flavor of victory. And the more parched I get, the more desperate I'll become. I don't belong here with the likes of you in the mid-tables. I am better than you. You are standing in my way from what makes me feel something in this bullshit circus we call life. And if you don't stop cheating with your stupid lists and loaded dice, you are my enemy. So you'd best step aside, you insignificant mid-table weakling. For I am glory incarnate, the terror of the mid-tables, and I will not rest until I obtain what is rightfully mine. If you're not someone who goes to these tournaments who thinks competitive 40k is for wankers, this creature might be what you imagine every competitively minded player is like. The self-importance, the complete lack of connection with that army, which they'll swap out more often than their underwear, the sole focus on victory over everything else. And those people do exist. I cannot deny that. I haven't met any of them personally, but they are out there. And I thought that maybe I understood them now, or at least I could reason as to why someone might act like this. I couldn't really understand why it was that this win, which I had basically being handed to on a silver platter, felt as good if not better than wins which I've earned by myself. I thought maybe if victory feels the same regardless, why wouldn't I just take the shortcut, grab a clearly broken list and stomp my way to a GT win? If winning is all you care about, that shortcut feels like it should be there for a guarantee, a ticket to greatness. But when you run up against reality and get stuck in the mid-tables, or get paired into a player of greater skill, and lose, there's no one else to blame but yourself. But you're a good player, right? You crush people regularly. You go to local game stores and RTTs, drinking from the well of accomplishment with such veracity that even a brief moment of that well going dry fills your heart with dread. If you can't get that feeling, what was even the point of spending the last 3 hours playing this stupid game? I played Happy again a week or so later, and lost. And that loss felt kind of rough. I felt disappointment. I still had a great time, but that loss stung quite a lot. Then recently, I was at a Teams event where something very strange happened. My favourite game of the event was the one where I got completely smashed. And the games I felt worst about were the ones I nearly won. I then started thinking back on all my previous events, all my wins and losses in the past, and a similar pattern started to emerge. And that's when I realised what was happening. I can now unequivocally state that I do not care about winning. My primary focus is on having fun, having a good time with my opponent. And I can do that in my brain completely separately from how I felt about the game itself. I can be disappointed in how a game went, but that doesn't take away from the enjoyment I got from the game. These two aspects do not interact at all for me. I had 2 great games against Happy. He's a great person to play against. I have nothing bad to say about him. And that level of enjoyment was the same in the win and the loss. The feeling of positivity I get from just the meeting new people, the vibing with my opponent, chatting to them about our 40k experiences, all of that is a separate feeling to how I feel about how I did in the game itself. I wasn't feeling good about winning against Happy specifically. I was feeling good because I played well. Yes, I had every advantage, but I still felt like I played it very well and made the best use out of all my units and made the best plays without any real mistakes. In my defeat against Happy, the disappointment was with myself because I'd made a critical mistake. I wasn't annoyed that I'd lost. I was annoyed that I'd made a crucial error that I shouldn't have. And that goes back to the team event results. The one I got smashed in, I was just completely outplayed and we had a very fun time. It was a really silly game. But the 2 where I almost won, I lost because of critical errors. And that is where I get that feeling of disappointment. But do you know what we call those feelings that you get? They're called lessons. When I play 40k, my main focus is on having a good time. Why would I waste 3 hours on a game or an entire weekend away from home if it wasn't going to be fun? If I'm playing against a great opponent, a super nice guy, it's the easiest thing in the world. All that positivity I get from the social side of the event greatly overpowers any negative feeling about the game itself. I could have the most dog shit game where I play like complete hot garbage, feel completely tilted with myself, but still have a laugh because that is what's more important. I can beat myself up later about being an idiot. And I can soften the blow to my ego because I created an entire YouTube career out of my psychotic need for constant self-deprecation disguised as humor to stop my inner demons from tearing me apart. The bigger the feeling of letting yourself down, the bigger the lesson. Being defeated by a better player teaches you something, sure, but making your own mistakes is the greatest learning opportunity in the world. And if you're like me and value the social aspect of these events, these lessons are really easy to handle. It'll suck, briefly, but at least you can still feel satisfied that you had fun because of the social benefits. And that will make sure you're in a good headspace to take those lessons forward, and eventually, over time, you will improve. But if you don't have that, if all you care about is winning, and you're so used to the taste of victory due to all the shortcuts you take, are you going to be able to handle those lessons? Or will it simply be easier to double down and lash out when confronted with the hardship? I started this section off by talking about how people who don't go to these sorts of events might paint all competitive 40k players with the same brush, might be thinking that because they win all the time, that must be all they care about. But do you want to know who the nicest, most welcoming, and most fun players to play against are at these events? It's the people at the top. I've met a good chunk of the best players in the world at these events. They're all great people, and there's a really simple reason they're all so nice. If you're an amazing player, but a massive dickhead, no one else at your level is going to want to play with you. You won't get invited to a team, you won't get invited to practice games, and you'll gain such a reputation that people might refuse to play with you at all. And this isn't performative or some sort of invite-only club where you have to follow certain rules. This is just the reality of what happens when you dedicate your free time to a singular pursuit. Why the hell would anyone want to waste weekends, evenings, taking time off work to get good at something only to be miserable? Why would you waste your time playing against someone who you know is going to be a complete arsehole? 2-day events especially are exhausting enough without having to prepare for a heated confrontation. And if enough people refuse to play you and you get that reputation, eventually you'll just not be able to play at events at all. So what happens to those highly skilled players who are dickheads? They have to find that feeling of victory from somewhere, so they dig for scraps, trying to forage for that delicious taste by scouring their local clubs or friendly local game stores for easy prey who don't know any better, hoping to draw someone into their trap. And this might be someone's first ever game, and they'll have an experience so terrible that they never want to play again. And that's devastating for the community as a whole. Frankly, it's unacceptable. Okay, I've spent some time trying to convince you that tournament top table players aren't all the sweaty grognards that you might think they are. But do you know who else is just as welcoming, friendly, and fun at these events, if not more so? The bottom tables. The people that attend because they just want to play some Warhammer with the army they love. The ones that bring the Thunderhawk or some other hilariously silly list. The ones that are just so goddamn good at the hobby it should be a crime because they're making the rest of us look bad. They have no ego, they just want to have a good time, hang out with people who share their passion and show off their amazing work. Without these guys, a tournament would be a much more dull affair. And you wouldn't be able to see insane shit like this. Sure, they will be absolutely demolished in round one if they pair into all the top players, but they both share a love for the game. They've both taken a lot of time out of their life to do this, and they know what they are there for. The top table player is probably going to give a bunch of tips whilst gawking at their models like they're a kid again, looking through the window at the local games workshop. But do you know who else at these events are just as friendly, fun, and welcoming as these two types of people? From my experience, everyone in between. First timers, long timers, old timers, hobbyists, top players, bottom players, players who want to improve, whether it's their list or a net list. The one consistent is that people are giving up a massive amount of time and money to participate at these events. And the last thing anyone wants is to have what precious little free time they have wasted having a shit experience. I can't stand here in this strangely coloured void, look you right in the eye and tell you that everyone's going to be 100% pleasant and lovely 100% of the time, because that's just not how humans work. People can get frustrated, or make mistakes, or get anxious. It's human nature. I mean, Christ, look at the kind of humans that are into Warhammer. We aren't exactly the prime candidates for our species. People often ask me what my favourite or least favourite matchup is, and I say the same thing every single time. I do not care what army I play against. I could go up against the most broken meta list played by the nicest guy in the world, and that would be infinitely preferable to playing against someone's silly meme list piloted by a twat. And that's the crucial wisdom that I gained from becoming a meta chaser. Victory, defeat, those feelings are fleeting. What lasts is the lessons you learn, the connections you make, and the fulfillment you achieve from participating in the activity that brings you joy. It does not matter the content of your list. What is important is the content of your character. And on that somewhat wankery-ish note, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. If you want to support the channel financially, please go ahead and become a member or patron like all of these lovely people, or buy some of my merch. I need to go put Mid-Table Terror Paul back into the deepest recesses of my suppressed subconscious. So I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.